Hello to everyone and the internet. It is currently Wednesday, January 9th. I am Nathan of Washington, and you are watching Culture Shock, the only show on the internet that knows how to separate an issue of culture from an issue of politics. And this is the news. Okay, folks, so my normal sources were kind of short for news stories, so I kind of had to supplement a little bit. So some of these will have some of these will have a slightly different profile. This will be a little mismatched, so bear with me. Some of these will sound a little like really small and unimportant, but I had to fill out time because like I said, my format here is I'm just trying to cast a wide net, cover a wide range of topics, which is something a lot of internet commentators like myself, for whatever reason, just don't do. I think it's important to get a bigger picture of what's really going on in the world. Anyway, the Patriarch of the Russian Orthodox Church says that smartphones will usher in the Antichrist. Oh boy. Hippity hop down the rabbit hole! Basically, Kirill is his name. How Kirill stated that people should hold no addiction. Not to drugs, not to alcohol, or gadgets. Hear, hear. See, now that one I actually like. That one I agree with. See, a lot of us really are kind of obsessed with our smartphones and various other gadgets. And I really think that's actually kind of a harmful thing. I'm not going to say that it's going to usher in some kind of super malevolent anti-Jesus, but on a personal, social level, it can be extremely damaging, especially when it relates to social media, which is probably the most damaging thing of all. On a side note, did you ever see that episode of The Orville on that alien planet where everyone was sort of judged by upvotes and downvotes? It was sort of a surreal look into the way what social media does to people, just the pressures that make them behave in a way that most people otherwise would not. I think it was a pretty believable and solid case study. I was extremely uncomfortable watching that whole thing because it really was a very accurate depiction of really what goes on in social media. And people obsessed with upvotes and downvotes and their cell phones and shit. Made me very uncomfortable, but it makes a very powerful point, if not in a somewhat silly way. Bottom line is, the Orville is more Star Trek than Star Trek right now, by the way. But Kirill stated that the Antichrist is going to control social media, the internet. So Mark Zuckerberg is the anti-Jesus, is the Antichrist? Because that's kind of how I feel about him. I mean, Mark Zuckerberg. Everything about that guy just gives me the fucking creeps. Even his selfies and his photos of him, they all look just absolutely fucking creepy. With his weird, stone-dead, unemotional baby face. Fucking robot. Like, if you ever listen to Styx Hexenhammer talk about Mark Zuckerberg, makes jokes about how he's a robot and they always have to change his batteries. Robot or soulless zombie demon thing? Would it really matter? Like, if there is an Antichrist, which I don't believe there is because I don't believe in Christianity, but if there was an Antichrist, I would totally believe it was Mark Zuckerberg. Everything about the guy makes me insanely uncomfortable. There's something not right about him, alright? And the way he just literally, like, controls a lot of the social media and the internet, along with his buddy Jack from Twitter. I'm just like, ugh. Man, I don't know. These monopolies are in desperate need of being broken up. Or boycotted. Or both. Yeah, they break them up and boycott them at the same time. Really make them feel the pain for all their bullshit. But in the end of the day, the Russian Orthodox Church is just a bizarre clone of the Catholic Church. I mean, even the vestments and costume worn by Kirill, the Orthodox Patriarch, just resembles... It's basically just the Pope's outfit with a different funny hat. You know? It's just a different shaped funny hat at the end of the day. It's just a clone of the Catholic Church and just as insane. Gee, I certainly hope that the Russian Orthodox aren't sexually abusing altar boys like the Catholic Church does. If there's any sex scandals in there, maybe someone should look into it. There's probably a solid possibility of it. An American Indian woman was raped while in coma. I don't know what tribe she belonged to, but like she was an Indian and she got raped by someone while she was in a coma. Apparently, you can actually moan an orgasm while you're in a coma, and someone apparently heard it and found out, and the dude just darted out of there as soon as it was over. But her family apparently fully adopted the baby boy. It was a boy, but they in the facility are still searching for the employee who did it. Now here's the thing: what makes rape truly terrible is the suffering it causes, the psychological damage and the harm it causes. I mean, sex is sex, but the fact that it's forced on you, there's often pain involved, like physical pain because your body's not being fully receptive to it. Bottom line is, you can't really cause a great deal of suffering to someone who's in a coma. At least not in the same way. Although definitionally speaking, yes, it still is rape, but it is not rape to the same degree. That doesn't justify it, but that does somehow make it maybe a little less damaging, a little less horrifying. So like maybe they should make it like rape in the third degree. You know, make the punishment fit the crime. It's like you want to rape someone who's in a coma, well, you know, maybe do just maybe, I don't know, 5 years in prison. 5 years in prison. Oh, and if you really want to hurt the guy when you find him, you really want to punish him, why don't you have him, if you really want to punish the employee, you should force him to occasionally, like, babysit the baby. Because, trust me, as a very active, responsible uncle, babysitting children, sometimes it really is just like an absolute horror. It can be absolutely horrible. The stress level of managing rambunctious children, especially boys, is just like, holy shit. I literally want the nice young men in white coats to come and take me away. It really is just, it is hella stressful. It drives me nuts. So, I mean, like, if you really wanted to punish the guy, just put him through that. Right? Of course, you could say, oh, what if he ends up abusing the baby? What if he ends up abusing the baby? Well, what if anyone ends up abusing your kid? Just because he raped a coma victim doesn't mean he was gonna abuse a child. Those are mutually exclusive. Mind you, it shows that he might be morally loose and that he might abuse the kid. But until we know the specific circumstances, we just really can't say that. Making assumptions is really not a safe bet. It's paranoia. But I mostly intended that as a joke, because babysitting young children really can be a very awful experience. I guess I'm just sort of dealing with my experiences in that area a little bit. But I think bottom line is, since you really can't cause the same measure of suffering because they're in a coma, that we know of, I guess maybe he deserves only about 5 to 10 years at the most. This could potentially be an abuse in sentencing, potentially. Because I stand for equal justice. And I know this would be a controversial idea, but I mean, who knows? Maybe once she comes out of the coma, we can ask her if she remembers or felt anything. Who knows? Sometimes you can have weird experiences in comas. Either way, I guess I'll just trust the jury to bring about the right decision. But I just don't see how you could even remotely cause the same level of suffering. And therefore should be treated as a lesser crime, but a crime nonetheless. Anyway, a British soccer coach, pedophile, died in a car crash. Ever hear of Kit Carson? Michael Kit Carson? We actually have a small park in Chehalis, Washington, named for him. This is where they used to play soccer. Legendary soccer player. But and coach who sexually abused 11 boys, all under the age of 16. He was that's where it's people like this that they used to conflate homosexuality with pedophilia, even though they're two completely different things. Just because the children are the exact same gender, so they sort of conflate the two together. Which is a natural enough conclusion, I suppose, but they're not the same thing. In fact, many gay people are strictly opposed to pedophilia. But this coach basically died in a car crash, and Kit Carson died in a car crash, and what's-her-face, his wife, basically successfully identified his body. So he literally escaped all judgment. He has escaped all judgment. Now, you gotta wonder, did he do the car crash deliberately to escape judgment? To escape going to prison? Because prison can be pretty awful. Which, by the way, I would say suicide is the coward's way out. Face the music with some dignity. This is very cowardly if it was an accident. Otherwise, I think he might have been, driving drunk. Which certainly hope he didn't hit anybody. Or he was just a really bad driver. Because that could be it, too. He was, a shitty driver. Maybe he was chauffeured around for most of his life, even though he had his license and he was just a really bad driver. That's a possibility, because some people do that, surprisingly. They'll get their license, but then they'll take rides all the time anyway. It's what the fuck? I mean, you have your license, you have a car, so what the hell? That's so weird. But moving on, a woman drags a tiny dog by a scooter, and then the dog's paws were all bloody and shit. Apparently she thought the dog was going to be able to keep up, and she didn't realize she was hurting it. I'm telling you, some people are more stupid than cruel. It wasn't an act of cruelty so much as it was an act of stupidity. And some people can be legendarily idiotic, and this woman, I wouldn't be surprised if she had a room temperature IQ. Let me just put it that way. Either way, that poor dog, that's a straight up animal rights abuse. That is animal cruelty. And that does carry quite a hefty fee, a fine and some prison time, not to mention community service, as it should. Because you abuse any living thing like that for any reason, I'm going to throw the book. If I'm the judge, I'm going to throw the fucking book at you. I don't care if you did it out of ignorance. What you did was cruel and messed up. Bottom line is, you should at some point be punished for being a fucking idiot. Moving on. A 21-year-old woman flies into a drunken rage and murders her father. Just straight up, grabs a fireplace poker and a piece of wood and just starts smacking him around. Man, she must have been awfully drunk, and he must have done something real bad to get her to react like that. Of course, it seems like nowadays pissing off a woman and getting her to do something crazy is pretty easy. Even easier if she's drunk. Sometimes I really have to, even I do some drinking, mind you. I drink alcohol, and yet sometimes I really gotta question the validity of the act of drinking alcohol when it does this shit to people and fucks up their heads like that. You really gotta wonder sometimes. I even sometimes criticize the legitimacy of eating spicy food. Plants literally evolved capsaicin to avoid being eaten, because the capsaicin causes a sensation of burning, searing pain. And yet, for some reason, I guess humans are masochists because we took to actually enjoying it. I mean, we must be. We also like getting drunk and having the alcohol fuck with our heads. So deep down, I think we're all masochists to some extent. It certainly kind of seems that way. Still, whether she was drunk or not, she's going to have to, face the music for committing a murder. The Golden State Killer has been cleared of the 1975 murder of a 14-year-old by use of commercial DNA sites. They compared the DNA to data available on those sites. But guess what? It's the internet. Who's to say that data is actually accurate? when it comes to the internet, there's always reason to question whether or not the information is truly legitimate or not. Bottom line is you have to do fact-checking corroboration. That you literally cannot get away without it. Or at the very least, if you find a news article that's extremely well-cited or well-sourced. But bottom line is, I doubt that the Golden State Killer was truly cleared. I mean, it doesn't matter anymore. The old guy's dead anyway. He died of old age. He was old and out of his mind with Alzheimer's. So there was really no way to say specifically. They proved about as well as they could given the circumstances as far as whether or not proving his guilt without him being able to truly respond in court coherently. Bottom line is the Golden State Killer was one of the most vicious killers of all time. And just because they were able to, quote-unquote, clear him of one murder does not mean they would be able to clear him of all of them. And I agree that using DNA evidence is the way to go, because all other evidence is largely pseudoscientific. Forensic science is not true science, a lot of it. DNA is the way to go. But not if you're going to use commercial DNA sites. You need an actual professional lab to test it. I don't trust those sites, and neither should you. So I'm going to remain skeptical. But the raw facts is that they use commercial DNA sites on the internet to legally clear him of the 1975 murder. During a lengthy investigation to discover all the facts. Moving on to our final story today. Roberto Daniel Arroyo. Man, this guy, I don't know. A 33-year-old man of part Hispanic, part white descent. From what I saw of him, looks like. He was 33 years old and a fucking creeper. He was caught on a house cam, on a door cam where you put the camera in the peephole. The guy stood there for 4 hours licking the house's intercom. Like, what in the actual fuck is this? Like, what the hell? Like, what kind of weird-ass people exist in this world that can do that? Just stand there for 4 hours licking a fucking house intercom. Like, dude, what? I mean, I understand if you feel like pulling a prank and making someone feel uncomfortable because you think it's hilarious, but I understand that. But 4 hours? And I can't imagine that the intercom tasted particularly good. So I'm just like, what kind of crazies are they letting out of the asylum now? I seriously question this man's sanity. And you should too. I mean, that's definitely not something anyone in their right mind would consider normal. You're standing there for 4 hours licking a fucking intercom with this look on his face that was pretty suggestive. I'm just like, dude, yeah. Is it time to summon the nice young men in white coats? I certainly think so. It's possible that he was more than just a creeper. Like, maybe he was straight up signifying that he was going to rape who was ever in there. Like, Deuce forced them to receive anilingus with his tongue. So, yeah, I mean, oof, wow. I mean, I'm done for today, folks. I'm out.